Good afternoon. Thank you very much. My name is John Lesher. I am the Environmental Planning Assistant Manager with the Montgomery County Planning Commission, and I am the point person from the county staff on the project that you are all here to learn about today. This is the Norristown Dam Hydroelectric Project FERC Exemption Application Joint Agency and Public Meeting. Very long title. So hopefully this is a pretty meeting because the goal is to educate you and then also get your input and feedback from us, from you for us about this project. Before we begin, a little safety moment. In case of emergency, if you exit these doors to the right, there is an elevator. In an emergency, don't take those. The stairs are the next steps down, and the restrooms are to the left. I would like to take this moment. We have the pleasure today of having two county commissioners here to give opening and welcoming remarks. We have Commissioner Makija and Commissioner DeBello, and I will turn the mic over to them, and then we will continue.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. I'll speak for a second, and then I'll turn it over to Commissioner DeBello, my colleague. I might just hold this. Is that right? We are really excited about this project, and I might actually stand over there, but I haven't memorized everything, so I'll look at it if I need to. But look, this is 20 years in the making. This project was the dam was acquired in 1992, is that right? And the project was first considered in 2012, and it is not the beginning. We're at, what do we want to call this?
A tremendous jumping off point.
A kickoff of some sorts? Yeah, a tremendous jumping. We're on a trampoline now. But this is a really important moment. This is a meeting we first have to do in order to get the FERC exemption, in order to get through the regulations that are required to make this dam a reality. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm brand new county commissioner. I was just elected in November. My name is Neil Makija. I see my colleague in Delaware County, Elaine Schaefer, who's also fantastic. He's doing fantastic things. Do I need to speak this?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
We are being recorded.
Okay, all right. So I will, even though taking up, but my colleague in Delco, some great advisors and friends we've had on forming a climate action plan for Montgomery County that has been in place for some time, but many people have asked in the last year, what's your plan? How quickly do we reduce emissions in order to by 2050, and we're already behind where we need to be in terms of renewable energy and the need to reduce emissions. And the number one way we can do that in Montgomery County with the assets that we own that are under our power to affect is here. It's right here at the dam with this hydroelectric project, which would generate 7,200 megawatts of energy per year,
yes,
which is
that's the design at this point.
Which is the design at this point. So 7,200 megawatts of energy. Of energy. Damn good.
Oh, there it was.
I had to fit it in. I'll fit it in again before we're done. But we were waiting for that. He'll come up with it. We hope. This is want to make sure that is affected positively, and there are a lot of steps to make sure this is done in the environmentally responsible way, which is part of what this is all about as well. So with that, I will turn it over to
Thank you. I was following along in your notes, and you pretty much hit everything except the one line here is Commissioner DeBello is awesome. But again, thank you for having us and inviting us here today. This is an exciting project. It's not the grid, utilize that power in some fashion. Set definitely a great option for us to look at and move towards over time. And I think that this project in Norristown, although when we see the dam, it's going to be a good addition. This is exciting for Montgomery County. It does give us an opportunity to offset our energy needs. As you can see, we have a center that's being built, and 100 megawatt power could go a long way to offsetting our energy needs. The goal is to majority of the energy that's produced on the dam would basically power or be equivalent to powering the Justice Center and beyond. So I think Montgomery County is a great thing for taxpayers because the cost for the energy will be a lot less than what we're paying today. So that is exciting for us and to this project, and we're looking forward to a lot more. Personally, have raised a lot of questions about the cost, but my understanding is that we're getting to a point where, and as Neil's mentioned, 20 years ago, this project wasn't feasible to do in Montgomery County, but the way the costs have come down and could be offset through different programs, this could be or is the right time to actually do this project. So we are looking forward to hearing more about that as well. So again, thank you very much for being here. And I also look forward to hearing, I hope you guys get a lot of good questions because that's what we want to hear from you for your, what you believe is the pros and the cons related to the project. So again, thank you. And we're going to be tour after the tour guide. So I got to have 2 in there. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Does this one work? All right, we'll try this one. Before we get going, I wanted to thank our host and IT staff, which I should have done in the very beginning, Bridgeport Borough and their manager, Keith Truman. We appreciate your hospitality and all the work that you were doing to allow us to be here. I want to introduce the very important speakers that we will have today. We have with us Verdantes, who is our technical consultant. I want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, and they will do the majority of the speaking as we move forward. So this will be a little bit more awkward as I now carry around the desktop.
I'm Jenna Rackavan.
Good afternoon, Steve Amaral, and I just want to point out Verdantes was formerly Alden Research Laboratory, so you may have heard of Alden in the hydropower space before, but now we are Verdantes.
I'm Dan Parker.
I'll come to you.
I'm Ben Coleman.
I feel like a talk show host walking around. Where did our somebody walk away with our clicker? All right. We'll use that. All right. Very briefly, our agenda today, we want to describe the physical conditions of the Norristown Dam, for those of you who are not familiar with it. We want to go through the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which is referred to as FERC. You will hear that more times than you would like this afternoon. The FERC exemption application process, which this is the kickoff meeting for. the schedule for as we move through that FERC exemption process. We will do an overview of the initial consultation document, which is the document that was prepared by Verdantis that begins the FERC exemption process. It is the necessary documentation that begins everything that comes forth from this. We'll do a summary of the affected resources. We'll talk about the Schuylkill River and how this project may affect those resources. This will require, in the upcoming years, a myriad of potential studies, environmental, social, economic, design, engineering. So we'll discuss what those may be. And then we'll take questions and comments afterwards. The purpose of the meeting, as I said from the beginning, is we want to inform everybody here. The meeting is being recorded, so those of people who are not able to attend will be able to view this on our website and be able to comment afterwards. We would like to hold all comments till the end of the presentation. Because this is a FERC proceeding, we would like it to be, we need you to sign in the back and then be able to come up, speak into the microphone. We will find one that we ensure works for you. And your comments and questions will be recorded. We may not respond to all the questions and the comments. There will be a written response at a later date. So the majority of the questions and comments we will record and then respond afterwards. So, as we have heard from the commissioners, this has been a long time coming. You know, we are, at Montgomery County, we are committed to sustainability, we are committed to issues of climate change, and we are committed to responsible use of taxpayer funding in the procurement of energy. This project supports a myriad of Montgomery County goals and initiatives. We have Greenprint, which is an adopted county climate action plan. This project is supported by that. The project is supported by the County Comprehensive Plan, Monco 2040, which calls for a green and sustainable infrastructure moving forward. In 2019, the commissioners passed a sustainability resolution, which among other things called for a goal of 100% renewable energy for all operations by 2050. This would be a huge step towards that, especially because it is locally produced energy. This is not buying RECs or something along those lines from somewhere else. So this would be a huge step towards that goal. This is a part of the county's energy strategy. We recently entered into the Sustainable Energy Partnership with Southeast PA, which is a collaborative consortium of counties that are working together to purchase energy at the best possible rates and also put ourselves at an advantageous situation to incorporate renewable energy into our portfolio. And honestly, generating local energy makes the county more energy independent. You know, if we do this and it works out, hopefully we are not only having a positive benefit on the environment, but we're also having a positive benefit on the budget and using taxpayer money responsibly. And as you can tell by the number of staff and the commissioners that are here, this project has been a long time coming, and it has been supported by county staff and commissioners throughout the process. And of that, we're very proud. I am going to hand this over now to the experts because they know much more about the technical aspects of this project moving forward. So I'm going to take a seat and let people smarter than me speak.
All right, thank you, John. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, I'm Steve Amaral, so I'm a senior consultant with Verdantis, but my trade is fish biology, and I've been working on hydropower projects for the better part of 30 years. I'm going to step through most of the information that's in the ICD, but very high level. Obviously, to get all the detail, it'll be important for folks to go through it and see what we've included on the project so far. This slide here just gives you an idea of the layout. So you can see what we've outlined as the project boundary. And this is basically the dam down here on the right-hand side. And then upstream, through Valley Forge in this area up here would be the extent of what the effect of the current impoundment and what would be the impoundment for the project. If we zoom in on the site, we can see the dam here. You can see the bridges upstream and downstream of the island where PECO used to have its project. We're flowing from left to right. Yeah, so that, I'm sure most of you are familiar with this area, but that's basically the extent. And it is important to point out that the project boundary will not change from what it is now to when, if the project is developed and operating. It will be run of the river, so flow in will equal flow out. And the only change might be the distribution of flow over the dam and then through the turbines. And just, I'm going to go over a little information on the FERC process. I know some of you are obviously very familiar with it and working on other projects. But this is a little different in that the county is asking for an exemption from licensing, which basically covers projects 10 megawatts or less on a case-specific basis. I'm going to just kind of skip over that first box, but it kind of describes what is an exemptable project, and this one obviously does apply. Two important things. The first one above the two boxes, the FERC exemptions are valid for the life of the project. So it's not like a normal relicensing or a licensing of a project where they get a 30, 40, or 50-year license and then they have to renew it. Once they receive the exemption, it's good for the life of the project. And because of this, when it comes to the environmental resources, FERC must accept whatever the state and federal agents require for protection of aquatic and wildlife and other affected resources. You know, that doesn't mean, we obviously will work cooperatively through the consultation process to get to whatever those requirements will be. And but I think it's important just to point those aspects of the exemption out. And again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but this is an overview of the exemption process. So you have a pre-filing phase, which is what we have just kicked off. And that is simply the applicant going through the consultation process where they eventually develop a draft application and then submit a final application. The post-filing is after the final application is submitted, and then it's in FERC hands. And then they will go through their process of reviewing it, doing the environmental impact or environmental assessment, and then issuing the exemption if they determine that it's appropriate. So here is where we are. We submitted, and this does say license up here, but we're using the traditional licensing process, which is the default for an exemption. Don't want to go into details, but there are two other processes that one is the kind of the default for a standard licensing, but in this case, the TLP is what we'll be using here. So we submitted the initial consultation document where that first box is, and that kind of kicked everything off with FERC and then our consultation. And what that brings us to basically in that pre-filing phase is a 3-stage consultation. The initial one is the first stage we're in now. We submitted the ICD. We're having the joint agency public meeting. Everyone will review the ICD, submit comments. Agencies will submit study requests, and then we will consult with the agencies on that. And that brings us to the second stage where we develop the study plans, conduct the studies, get the input and feedback from the agencies and the tribes, develop the draft application, submit that to FERC. Assuming it's approved, we go to the third stage, which is finalizing it based on all the input that we have received. And then again, it goes to that post-filing phase that FERC takes over. And again, here's where we are today in that first stage of consultation. This is the schedule, and what I would focus on here is the blue lines represent those 3 consultation stages in the pre-filing phase of the application, and then it's broken down by the various activities that occur during each of those consultation stages. This is in the ICD. Yeah, so it can be, with the TLP, it's not driven tightly by schedule, but obviously this, you like to move through it pretty efficiently. And we think, at the soonest, it's a 2 to 3 year process, but it could go longer than that as well. And again, here's where we are today. So moving on to the ICD, again, I'm not going to go into detail on any of these, but just kind of cover sort of the project design facilities and then what we think are the affected resources. And certainly the reason we're having this meeting is to sort of educate folks and then get the initial comments and questions from everybody. And then obviously you'll still be able to go through the ICD and submit comments more formally through FERC. So project design, we have flow moving from left to right or down to up here, Norristown Dam, and this is sort of a conceptual of what the where powerhouse would be located. And this is where the existing fishway is now. There are no modifications proposed to the dam itself. It would simply just be this area here where the powerhouse would be installed. Looking at the water resources, you can see the river basin, the Schuylkill River Basin on the left. You can see there are 7 dams. Norristown is the 3rd dam on the river with Flat Rock and Fairmount downstream of us. And then this is the drainage area for the actual Norristown Dam itself. Our initial review of species, we relied on a couple of surveys that were conducted in the vicinity of the project. One was focused on smallmouth bass and the other on shad, and they were conducted within the last 12 or 14 years. It's got sort of your typical freshwater species that you would expect in this type of river. It does have migratory species as well. You can see a picture here of American shad and American eel. River herring, alewife blueback herring would also be considered. And certainly things like fish passage will be focused on the migratory species, but would benefit the freshwater fish as well. Wildlife and botanical resources look at the terrestrial community within the project boundary, mainly within close to the dam, but we looked at gathered as much available information as possible to kind of describe what's there now and potentially whether or not it would be affected. Wetlands, floodplains, riparian resources, we've looked through a lot of information there and present a lot of data in the report in the ICD, just describing these resources. We identified 3 species that are state endangered and 2 of which are threatened federally, and they include the Indiana bat, northern long-eared bat, and then also the bog turtle. Certainly we'll be in consultation with the agencies on potential impacts of these and whether or not any mitigation would be required. There's an abundance of recreation in the Schuylkill River Valley and along the river itself, both within the river and with the great network of trails that you have. And it's also a lot of land use. It's very mixed between commercial, residential, and with the recreational facilities. So. Cultural historical resources, again, it's very rich with a lot of historical parks and things like that. And, certainly we'll be taking a deeper dive into this, but I think we have a pretty good overview of it in the ICD. Socioeconomic resources, this is out of the ICD and it just shows the natural gas and electricity use. We see the residential and commercial for both of these in Norristown and Bridgeport. A lot of natural gas use, but there is a fair amount of electricity going on for both the residential and the commercial, and adding a renewable resource like hydro will certainly improve the availability of the electricity as well as the cost. Aesthetic resources, this is often a big one. You know, there's a lot of people like to see the flow going over the dam, obviously, and the current plan for the operation of the project is always to have some kind of veil flow over the dam. Water would never be held back or stop flowing over the dam during the operation of the project. Tribal resources, we didn't identify any federally or state recognized tribes in the vicinity of the project, but there are tribes with potential interest in the region, and we have reached out to all of these folks. And we obviously will continue to consult with them through the exemption application process. Potential studies. First, the comments and study requests are due 60 days following this meeting, so that would be August 4th. They need to apply to the affected resources that have basically a connection or a nexus to the project. I put up a few common study requests here. This is by no means conclusive. It's mainly focused on the aquatic resources. But typically, you'll see fish community surveys, fish impingement and trainment evaluations for fish moving downstream, water quality assessments upstream and downstream, in-stream flow evaluations and habitat. Certainly, there are other things like monitoring migratory fish movements like eel elvers coming upstream. Certainly, you know, the historical resources, there may be more to do there as well. I will point out, because this is a proposed project that hasn't been built, it's a little different than your typical licensing in that we may not want to evaluate some of these resources until after the project is built, and that's, you know, because there will be some slight changes, mainly in the flow moving over the dam and then downstream. So, for example, eel elvers migrating upstream, their distribution in the river now may change a little bit after the project is operating and the flow is changed a little bit. So again, that will all be determined in consultation with the agencies on what information we need now versus after the project is constructed and operating. Yeah, and so the request for additional, we're requesting, you know, certainly after everybody reviews the ICD, if you're aware of any additional studies, research, reports that are related to any of the affected resources, is important that we can get that information so that we can include it in the exemption application. So I think we're at the point of the public and agency input for the meeting. I think we have a list of people that signed up. We're going to ask speakers to come up in the order that they've signed up. We'd like to limit it to 2 minutes at this point. However, we do have a fair amount of time, so there will be an opportunity if you don't get all your questions asked or if you don't get all the information you'd like to provide in to step up to the podium again. It's not a Q&A session. Certainly comments and questions are what we want, but we may not have answers at this point. And it's not a point where we're going to try to resolve any issues. We just want to hear the information that you have, concerns or questions about the project. So some questions may be easy to answer, others that we're going to have to defer until we do formally respond to the comments. Certainly, folks don't need to be here today, so if anyone that's not in attendance, if you know anyone, other people that are aware of this, they certainly can submit comments at a later date. And there also can be formal submittals to FERC, and there is a process for doing that. We put up here a link for submitting comments to FERC with the docket number, which is very important. That docket number is FERC's reference to the project, and everything that's filed with FERC will reference that docket number. So, shall we begin with the questions?
If more people would like to sign up now that they've seen the presentation, if you could go back and sign up on the sheet that Ben has. We'll give you guys another minute or two to do that.
In the interim, we have Zach Davis.
The button, you said?
Push me out.
Push you out of the way. Yeah, get out of here. No. Zach Davis, chair of the Upper Marion EAC, as well as various working groups throughout the county and region and whatnot. So I just first want to applaud the county staff as well as the commissioners, Makija, DeBello, and Winder, who couldn't be here today, for pursuing this. I think along with the Sustainable Energy Partnership of Southeast PA, these are critical steps that we're taking to becoming energy independent and net zero within the county. I think it's a more responsible fiscally and socially for the county residents, and I think any effort to keep this as a public project rather than a private project, potentially selling it down the road, is key to avoid any potential price gouging or unforeseen effects of energy generation and costs down the road. So the one question I do have is, obviously this will generate 7,300 megawatt hours per year, and the estimated energy usage is about 3,600 from what I understand for One Montgomery Plaza and the new Justice Center. Is there a plan for the excess? Are we exploring microgrids or potential battery storage solutions? And also, will we be hooking this directly up, essentially, like Commissioner DeBello said, having the COO go down and plug it in, but will we have a direct line to those facilities via microgrid or something? Or will we just be feeding this back to PICO and the grid? So if you can't answer that now, it's fine. Just wanted to throw those out there.
Maybe I'll stand closer. So this one I can answer because the answer is we're going to explore it. Because that would be at this point in my head, it would be the best case scenario, but we need to make sure that the design is feasible and that it's fiscally responsible. But yes, those are topics that we will explore and that we are eager to explore. But I cannot give you an answer other than go to Home Depot and get an extension cord and we'll have Lee plug it in every day. But we're looking to do it. We're looking to explore it.
Our next responder is Roger Phillips.
Good afternoon. I'm Roger Phillips from Gannett Fleming. I'm the borough engineer here in Bridgeport. Couple of questions. How will this affect the base flood elevations, both above and below the dam? Do we know that impact yet?
As far as I know, there will be no effect because we're not altering the flow in any way, coming into the impoundment, going over the dam.
Okay. Outside of the river itself, what are the dimensions of what would be a potential, whatever the building is, structure that would be outside of that?
Dan or anyone knows about that?
Hello. So the answer to your first question is that we will do impact analysis for that, and that'll be part of the study to make sure that we don't make an impact on the. Oh, is that the problem? All right, there we go. And can you repeat the other question? You're looking for what kind of structures will be
What kind of
off
structure would be outside of the riverbed itself that,
So the prevailing design at this moment, we're still looking at iterations of design, but the prevailing design will be an in-river submerged unit. So it's a completely self-contained generator and turbine that gets lowered into the river, into these bays. And that just gets fed back to a very small control unit on shore that'll be about the size of a small shipping container. And that's pretty much it. So you'll have that, you'll have a concrete structure to house the units, and then there'll be some access gangways and some,
Sure.
like gurney cranes and things like that. But
and then an obvious question on behalf of the residents of Bridgeport. Why the Bridgeport side? Why not the Norristown side?
Ben, answer that.
let's see. We did, part of our feasibility study, we did look at both sides. And
There were several reasons. One of the reasons is the fish passage, that it's the existing fish passage. And having the units closer to the fish passage actually increases the chance of fish finding the fish passage. So putting the turbines on the other side of the dam would attract the fish over there and oftentimes make them not, fish won't locate the passage.
Okay, so
That
brings another obvious question. How would it affect the fish ladder itself now? It's not going to create an issue with sucking fish into the intakes or anything, right?
Right. Am I standing too close to him? Is that it? All right, so. Yeah, I could go up to the podium.
I'll get out of your way.
So,
I could talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah.
So certainly that's something we have to investigate, is what the effect on the fish ladder will be from the generation flow, because they are side by side. But as Ben pointed out, having them together is optimal as far as attracting fish to one location. So we will investigate it, and we want to make sure the hydraulic conditions are optimal for fish to locate the entrance to it with the turbine discharge next to it. So.
additionally, access is better on the Bridgeport side as far as construction, and there is a public utility line on that side. What else? There was construction done on that side before, where that recently, it's been more recently rebuilt. So disturbing that area will have less impact. And we I guess to answer your question, we dove into that pretty deep into the feasibility report.
All right. And there'll be an opportunity in the future for additional comments, written comments during a comment period? Yeah, all right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Elaine Schaefer. I am the Executive Director of Schuylkill River Greenway's National Heritage Area. We are the state-designated manager of the recreational water trail. Our board will be filing submitting some comments on several issues. We're very excited about this project. It's exciting to bring renewable energy to our region and to the river. But our primary concerns are revolving around the recreational use of the river in this area. It is a well-used portage around a way for kayakers and boaters to get around the dam. There's a put-in right below the fish ladder that seemingly will be affected by this. So we'll be following this and very concerned about how it's going to affect recreational users of the water, both during construction and after when the flow changes. And we look forward to working with you to perhaps even improving the conditions of that portage there, where many people access the river to recreate. And it's a really important economic activity in this area. For us, we have several annual events, some of them very impactful, including our Schuylkill River Sojourn that use that portage. It will be very meaningful to us if it is disturbed in any way during construction and after construction. So those are the things that we'll be concerned about. Lastly, I just wanted to note that as defined, the project area looks like it ends at the dam. And some of our concerns are below the dam and the flow and how it will affect people putting in their kayaks at that point. So we want to ensure that as this moves forward, even though that's not actually in the project area study as it appears, that this will all be taken into consideration. So thank you.
Yeah, so I'll just comment. Those are all very good points. And I can't tell you exactly how it'll be addressed, but it will be. Obviously, recreation is a key component that FERC has to consider. And portages, fishing access, that whole type of thing will be addressed, mitigated, and typically I think what you see is enhancements to what's even already there, so.
That's it for us for now, unless anybody else.
Would you like to step to the mic, please?
My name is Abdel Nassani. I'm a senior engineer at Pennsylvania DEP. I want you just to catch your attention that SEPTA, I run a pre-application meeting in my office, that they are proposing to enhance their truss bridge structures above the dam, and they're proposing to put the causeway downstream from the dam. So please coordinate with SEPTA ahead of time for your construction, maybe impact your site. And the other comment I want to make, your placement of the container or whatever structure next to the dam, probably it's located in the floodway, and make sure it's not in a flood-prone area, because the fish ladder and the entire park goes underwater at least twice a year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody change their mind and would like to come up and say anything? Or other questions? Okay, again, you all will have the opportunity to submit comments more formally and reach out to FERC. And certainly you can contact the county or myself moving forward. The county has set up a website, and this is the link to that, and this is an area that will post information related to the project. It'll include some, not all, the FERC filings, but certainly the ICD, this presentation, any study plans, study reports, things like that will be made accessible on this website. All right, so we're a little early, but we can, at this point, head over to the site. We will, we'll stay there past 3 p.m. in case anybody was going to skip this part of the meeting and just go to the site visit. But just a couple of points. Safety-wise, just be careful. You're going to be around water and any kind of tripping hazards. Watch out for things like that. You can either drive 2 minutes away from here, or you can walk to it. It's about a 10-minute walk. There is a parking area for a few cars, but potentially limited spaces. And where we will gather over there is the fish ladder kiosk. And I guess that's it. And I believe there's a board in the lobby that has the meeting location, shows where you can walk or drive from here. So. Yeah, so we'll all be over there, and likely maybe have Ben just point out some of the things where the project will be laid out, and could potentially address some of the.
Someone gonna walk in kind of, so we can kind of follow you?
Oh, over there?
Opposed to having to drive?
Yeah, no, yeah. I think I was planning on walking too, and all of our group as well. So we
could do a walking school bus.
Yeah.
Like we're on the right.
All right, so I think there are some waters in the lobby if anybody's thirsty, and if you need to use the bathroom, please do so. And maybe 5 minutes or so downstairs, we can head on over there. Thank you.